Is in the bathroom.
He's here now. We were
Okay, he
waiting
is
for
here.
you. Okay. Welcome to the March 28th, 2024 public hearing of the Southampton Town Planning Board. We welcome you, and just a note, some safety regs that in case of an emergency, there are two doors here. You can exit there, go down the stairs and out the front door. We have your names on the sign-up sheets, so I'll be
That's
calling
yours.
them in that order,
Those
and
three
then,
are
of course,
yours.
if you're not on there,
All three of yours.
we'll call you anyway if you put your hand up, okay? And then we have people on Zoom.
I don't have the affidavit.
So,
Which is the first one?
the first one is Atlantic Hotel.
I just need
Oh,
the
yes.
affidavit.
So we'll have a roll call, please.
Chair LaFaro,
Present?
Vice Chair Finnerty,
Present.
Secretary is here, Board Member Catalinato, Board Member Mutu,
Present.
Board Member Neely,
Present.
Board Member Fulham is absent. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So our first application is the Atlantic Hotel. Do we have sufficient notice, council?
We do, Madam Chair.
Okay. So Tom, do you want to
Read
read
that.
that into the record?
Sure. Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, March 28th, 2024, at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-submission application entitled Atlantic Hotel. The site plan application is for the demolition of a 62-unit hotel and amenities and the construction of a 59-room hotel, 56 guest rooms, 3 staff rooms, accessory restaurant, spa, pool, tennis court, and parking on a 4.5-acre parcel located in the HB zoning district at 1655 County Road 39, Hamlet of Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-177-1-28.
Thanks, Tom. It's all yours, thank you.
Thank you for the applicant, Aram Tertunian, First Coastal Corporation, West Hampton Beach, New York. I'm accompanied by Derek Ganji from EDSA Architects. The principals, Mr. Furtag and Michael Jones, are in the room as well, so if you have questions for them, you can direct questions to them. We had gone over this very briefly before and gotten some feedback from the board. But I'd just like to summarize, what it is that we're proposing to do. So this site is currently improved with 2 dormitory-style hotels, hotel motels, with 64 units. And the applicant is actually proposing to decrease the number of units to 59. I know our notice says 64, but upon review of the site plan, they've decided to reduce that to 59 units. There were a number of comments on the initial site plan that we had prepared, and so we have a copy of the revised site plan up here, and I'd like to hand out some packages. I'll just tell you what these different pages are at first, and then go through them. The first page is our most recent revised site plan. That includes a lot of the comments that we received from the board. The second page is the same site plan, just identifying various features because it would have been too busy all on one. The third page is a revision to the site plan, what we call Alternative B, where the board asked us to look at a Shrubland Road entrance exit. The fourth page is some details on what the fire access road is going to look like, emergency access road. And then the last page is just our original submittal. So those are what you have in front of you. And if you go back to the first page, you'll see that, we've got a lot area of just about 200,000 square feet. It's 4.5 acres. Our existing hotel has a lot coverage of approximately 20,000 square feet. And our allowable lot coverage on the site is 26,000, almost 27,000 square feet. So that's what's permitted under the code. You'll see in the programming of how many different types of units we have, and in the previous packet we gave you, we had shown you what the different layouts were for the suites, the bungalows, and the two-story bungalows. And then you just see our parking calculation. So we have a parking spot for each unit, and then we have 10 parking spots for employees that would be up to 20 employees at any time. Just to look at the site plan itself, you can, I guess we'll start in the bottom on the middle. The board had asked us to review relocating the entrance to make it more central to the property and to offset it from Greenfield Road, which is to the north. And so we've done that. They also asked us to redistribute the parking. And you can see that because we have two front yards, parking has to really be in one front yard or the other. So what we've done is we've minimized the parking in the County Road 39 side, and we've provided a location on the lower right corner for a cross-access agreement, cross-access area. And you can see the blue hash is basically just showing that we have complete circular coverage for emergency vehicles to go around the entire property. The layout shifted a little bit, so the lobby is shown here as building 4 in red. The restaurant is building 5. The one is some of the rooms, but underneath that is going to be a service area, and our service entrances will be just on the right-hand side of that larger building labeled number 1. Continuing to the right and up, there's a spa, a multi-use court, possibly pickleball, and then the series of bungalows that wrap around the property, all centered on a green space and a pool and patio and that type of thing. So that's the general overall review of the site. I would like to point out something on the entrance that came up in our analysis. And Mr. Walter Dunn is here, who's a renowned traffic engineer we've retained to help us make this site plan as functional as possible. And a lot of the changes you see here came from his advice, as well as input from the board. But one of the things that he pointed out to me on relocating the entrance is we think that it makes it a little bit actually less safe. If you'll see the turning lane in the middle of County Road 39, where people would be queuing up to take a left onto Greenfield Road, they would be literally head-on with the people who are queuing up eastbound to take a left into the hotel. So really, the safest alignment is an alignment directly with Greenfield Road as it is now. And that's what's been recommended to us by the traffic engineer. And I think if the board takes a look at that and realizes two oncoming left-hand turns can't go through each other. On the second page, you'll see how we've distributed the parking throughout the site. We have a nice setup in the reception area, but then the parking, we have service that comes over to the right side, but a lot of the parking is servicing the bungalows on both the north and the west side of the property. If you look on the third page labeled Alternative B, what you'll see here is one of the things we were asked to look at was, well, what if you just, did a 180, come in from Shrubland? And I actually drove from from this shrubland entrance all the way to Tuckahoe Road to get here, because as we know, traffic this time of day is challenging. But this site plan really doesn't work for the site at all. First of all, it pushes all of the residential, not all of them, a large number of the residential units up against County Road 39, which is, as we know, a very busy and noisy road. That really doesn't lend itself to the type of environment that we're attempting to create, which is one more of solitude and quietness. And also, moving all the traffic onto Shrubland Road has its own problems with, A, it's a local street, it's not designed to handle a lot of cars. B, you have the no left turn that comes off County Road 39 right now, that's not gonna change. And so people would have to drive all the way down to the light at Tuckahoe Road and come all the way around. It's, it's about a 3-mile trip at this point. So we wanted to demonstrate to the board that we're listening, but upon reflection and review, we don't think that is a viable option. The next page is some detail on the grass pave for the emergency access. I think that we weren't very clear with the board as to how we were going to accomplish that, and so these cross sections and illustrations give you a much better idea of what that would look like. The nice part about the grass pave is it's completely permeable and it's rated to carry fire trucks. So we think that's a tremendous addition, both from a safety, aesthetic, and environmental point of view. And then the last page is merely the site plan that we had previously submitted to you, just so you have it in your packet to compare. With that, I'm happy to respond to questions from the board.
How will sanitary be handled?
Sanitary, in your original package, there's a layout on the sanitary. There's going to be 3 separate systems. There's a system that's associated with the restaurant, and I should run through that. So right now, there's 2 hotel buildings and a pool and 2 tennis courts. What we're going to have is a lobby, and associated with that a restaurant, a spa, and then 9 bungalows. So the restaurant is going to have its own sanitary system because it has to have a grease trap and a few other things. And then the 2 groups of bungalows on the north and on the west are going to have their own sanitary systems, and this is all obviously going to be in compliance with the Suffolk County Department of Health and IA standards.
A sanitary flow on the site is sufficient for what you're proposing?
That's why we're at 59 units. Yes, and we've reviewed the sanitary plan with Department of Health preliminarily, and they seem satisfied with the engineering design. And that's being done by the Rayner Group.
So in terms of, I know you're under lot coverage, so you say, but we also can see that it's a very packed site. It is built out in every direction. Your business model probably requires that, but it's 15,000 square feet of increase in buildings. I mean, what was there before was 2 buildings, right?
Yes.
Okay, now you have any number of buildings.
Well, actually, it's only about a 6,000 square feet in lot coverage.
In terms of building,
Yeah.
yeah, we have a note from staff that it's 15,000 square feet, so I'm just reading it to you.
Okay. So, well,
George?
first of all, right, I'm sorry,
No,
is there a question? First of all, the site as it is now has this very dense use on one small portion of the site. What we're doing is taking that use and spreading it out throughout the site to take advantage of this beautiful site. So I would say this is a vast improvement, not just from an aesthetic point of view, but from an impact point of view. Now we have a situation where you can, where instead of everybody being in the same spot, they're able to spread out and use the property.
So on the top sheet here, I was just a little confused about your parking calculations and where, on the top sheet, the parking is around the perimeter of the buildings?
Yes, yes. It's on the north, south, and west sides.
And in the,
It's not, I don't see it identified.
Well, it's identified by the.
number
the-
2, is
the-
that
Yeah,
it?
Number
They don't
2.
show individual
okay,
stalls.
got it.
Yeah,
These
they're
are-
just- they're just
yeah.
It's
blank
kind of
area.
in front of the
Yeah, broad
bungalows.
area.
Right. And then on the, the site that we originally saw, which I guess is the last one, you bulked all the parking in the front.
Front, yeah.
Right,
Right, which is why we had asked you to do a flip to see how it looked in the back.
right.
And your reasoning is that you don't want to put people in these cabins on County Road 39.
Well,
I can't blame you.
Yeah, I mean, actually, now that I understand that the parking is dispersed, at least then you could drive to your room, which I thought, when I saw the original application, you'd need to be driven, transported in some way.
Jitneyed in some fashion.
Some sort, yeah, golf cart or whatever, which personally, I would not want to have to
Right.
depend on somebody else to get me from my car to my room. That's just me personally.
Understandable.
Or you want to go out to do something, you need to take a long walk, or you have to wait for somebody to come and get you.
Well, that's why you guys are the planning board. You had some good ideas.
Maybe, getting back to the question of lot coverage by buildings, and maybe you don't have this information immediately available, but what's this total square footage of all the floors on the existing building versus the square footage of the combined buildings and amenities that you have? Is that the same, or is that more or less?
It's a little, it's more.
Okay.
I don't have that
So the
number,
question is
but
how
it
much
is
more?
more.
Because if there's a threshold, above which you need to go for a variance if you increase it by so many square feet. So we don't know what that, it'd be
Well,
good to know what that number is.
Okay, in the code, it just talks about units. So we're actually decreasing the number of units.
So it's a type 1 action, because you're over 50 parking spaces. And we'll be looking at a potential traffic study here. So just so you know, we're also looking for not only like a July count, but also either shoulder season, either spring or fall,
You know,
because the traffic is heavier there than it is
Walter's
in
been
August.
working on some of that. If you want to hear some of that information tonight, I'm sure he'd be happy to share it with you.
Well, we want to see if we have some people in the audience who want
Okay.
to speak. Okay. Any other questions from the board? Anyone here to speak to this application? Is there anyone, Kevin, on Zoom? No one on Zoom. Okay, well, when you come back to us with the board, we can look at traffic then, but we will require a traffic study with counts.
But we just wanted to kind of give you the upfront knowledge that we would be looking for something over the summer and another count, in the spring or late fall, as the shoulder seasons when traffic patterns are different.
And are you looking for the traffic that enters the property? Is that what you're looking for?
No, to get in and out of this property on County Road 39. And
So you want us to do a
shrubland,
traffic study on County Road 39?
and shrubland, yep.
Jackie, we've been handled. Do you want me to look them in, or?
Excuse me, you have someone?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, let's just get someone who is,
Oh, Jim.
Good afternoon
Jim?
again. Jim Hume, I'm actually the attorney for the applicant, so I am just endorsing what Mr. Tertullian had already reviewed to you. He didn't have the privilege of being at this afternoon's session, so I will certainly relate to him and my clients your discussions about traffic studies,
thank you.
which I found interesting. So I don't really have a question, and I just want to emphasize what also Mr. Tertullian identified is the code speaks in terms of numbers of units, not numbers of beds or rooms. And we have in fact reduced the number of units on this site.
I think it's different, though. I think we're looking for building square footage, right?
Right, well, we're looking for that,
Yeah.
based on Claire's notes, but, we'll see
Right.
when time comes.
Okay. So no one else wishes to speak to this, so we'll close. This is, this
30
is
days.
30 days
Pre-submission.
pre-submission?
Yeah.
30-day written comment period.
Motion.
Motion by Dennis,
Second.
second by Gloria, and all in favor? Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next application is 8 Woodridge Road. Do we have notice, council?
I don't have anything, no. Yeah, I need the mailing slips and I need also the mailing list. Madam Chair, you may want to take the next
And
hearing.
he's presenting it as a reduction.
I need the mailing list.
No?
I need the mailing list, I don't know. You might want to take the other hearing first.
Okay, we'll move on then to the estate of Madeline Cuomo. And we have notice on that?
We do, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. And so, who is reading that?
I am.
Okay, Gloria?
Please take notice that in accordance with local law 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, March 28, 2024, at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the final application entitled The Estate of Madeline Cuomo. The final application consists of a standard plan which consists of a 4-lot subdivision of 4 parcels with a total project area of 1.78 acres, located on the south side of Montauk Highway, County Road 80, between Seashore Avenue and Ocean Avenue, situated in the R20 zoning district, Hamlet of East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map numbers 900-291-1-5, 6, 9, and 10.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sabrina Kelly from InterScience, 36 Nugent Street, here on behalf of the applicant. Tonight, I'm just going to discuss the pending final minor subdivision application. This one is proposing essentially a lot line modification of 4 properties at 3 Seashore Avenue, 5 Seashore Avenue, 6 Ocean Avenue, and 331 Montauk Highway in East Quogue. There are 4 existing residential lots that are in the R20 zoning district, and they have an aggregate lot area of 1.78 acres. 3 of the 4 properties were previously associated with a nightclub that has since been demolished. At current, all the properties are vacant. 2 of the 4 existing lots are non-conforming to lot area, and 3 of the 4 lots are non-conforming to lot width. The property owner is proposing a modification of the internal lot lines of the 4 existing residential lots. The project will result in 4 lots, so there will be no increase in density. The applicant is simply proposing to modify the internal lot lines to make some of the lots more conforming to lot area. The proposed lot line modification will reduce nonconformity so that only 1 of the 4 lots is nonconforming to lot area. There's also a 2,011 square foot dedication on lot 2 for the widening of Ocean Avenue on the east side. There was also a ZBA decision granted in 2007 for this proposed lot line modification, as even though we're making the site more conforming, one of the properties will still be non-conforming to lot area, and then 3 of them will still be non-conforming to lot width. Pre-application report was adopted by the planning board for this project in 2012. And then in 2013, the planning board adopted a resolution to allow for the demolition of the nightclub. Since that time, since it's been a lot of time since that happened, the planning board did require a new report that was issued in 2020 and amended in 2021. The applicant recently received health department approval in January for this subdivision, and which was, a copy was included in our submission. And we believe that we've addressed all the comments in the report from March of 2021, and we're here to take in and answer any questions from the board or the public. Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Nope.
Nope, we've seen this for some time. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the application? Anyone on Zoom, Kevin? Okay.
10 days.
Right, so we'll close this with a 10-day written comment period. Motion by Dennis, second by Craig, all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Closed with a 10-day written comment period. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Do we have some notice issues?
They didn't bring notice?
Yeah,
Didn't bring
so no
meeting-
notice? Yeah.
Not yet.
No meeting
Kristen
notes?
went to see if she could find a list.
Okay. So we'll move on then to Bussel, property number 4. Do we have notice on that, Christine?
I don't,
No notice on that?
oh, I think, don't give this to me. Thank you. We're good.
She says we're
He's
good.
okay?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, good. So,
Craig.
Craig, you want to read this?
Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, March 28, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-submission application entitled Bussell Properties 4 LLC. The site plan application is for the construction of a 5,000 square foot accessory structure to an existing building used by a special trade contractor, use on 4.88 acre parcel located in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District in the Central Pine Barrens Compatible Growth Area at 1368 Spionk Riverhead Road, Hamlet of Spionk, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-327-1-1.1.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Rick Wisnowski. I'm from the Rayner Group. I represent the applicant. The applicant, as mentioned, is proposing to add a 5,000 square foot pre-engineered building in the northeast corner of the lot. It's just to be used as a supplemental extra warehouse space for their current use. Let me get the plan. Okay. The building will have a restroom in it, so we will be adding a sanitary system, an IA sanitary system. We're going to be a little over density, so we'll need to get approval from the health department for that. Proposing drainage and utility improvements on the on the proposed building. The clearing is over the allowable by about 1,600 square feet. So we're looking at either revegetating or bringing in some credits.
So you're
And
in
that's
the
about it.
APOD district and the Central Pine Barrens Compatible Growth Area?
Yes.
You'll be overcleared for this, when you clear for this building of 5,000 square feet, or are you overcleared now?
No, if we install the building, we'll be over by 1,500,
Yeah.
1,600 square feet,
Mhm.
overcleared by 1,600 square feet.
We are unable to grant that relief.
And that's right in it. Anthony, do you have the aerial?
Yeah.
Because that's a very wooded area there. Where you want to place the building. Yeah. That's a lot of
In other words,
clearing.
we're empowered to authorize revegetation plans for sites that have been overcleared inadvertently, but our board cannot give you permission to
Clear.
exceed the allowable clearing to do the project.
Right.
Important distinction, but it's,
Very important.
yes.
But it's 1,500 square feet, I have to believe the site plan could address that.
Yeah. I mean, the building
Yeah, we
has
have
that
like a little
far.
bit of, play on the extents around that building. It could be tightened up.
Yeah, the location of it. I mean, you put it right in a pristine area of foliage, so. Can we see the aerial again, Anthony?
And
Yeah,
the-
it's pretty much like that whole northern area, is vegetated.
And what's the property to, I'm going to say the right, I don't know which is north or south.
Yeah, that's the east. I mean, that's zoned residential.
Could be old file map.
I think it's an old file, I believe it's an old file map.
Okay, so that's an issue, the clearing. That we're really not authorized to give you clearing, to
Beforehand.
clear it before you clear it. So you may need to reconfigure.
And what about health department for over septic?
It's
How does
over
that-
by about, I think it's about 100 gallons per day. They're allowed.
How does that work?
You can bring
What-
in
So,
high variance
from,
rates.
from the town's perspective, you got sort of a development right issue that relates to zoning, which we're not dealing with here.
Right.
And then if they're deficient, they can bring in a sanitary flow credit for the purposes of health department, go to the board of review. You actually can't just bring in a sanitary flow credit and they accept it, you actually have to go to the board of review.
Which is the
It's like
county,
their variance board.
the county health
Yeah,
department,
and so
okay.
they'll have to do that. I believe the health department requires it from the same
Same
groundwater management.
watershed, yeah.
That's correct.
We're seeing a lot of
Yes.
applications on Spionk Riverhead Road. I think, clearing
Mhm.
restrictions need to be strictly adhered to.
Yeah.
Are you, do you have excess parking on that site? Or are you
There's-
compliant right now?
There's 61 spots, well, 63 spots, I believe, on there now. There was the planning board approved.
61 existing, 41 land banked, required 94.
I was gonna suggest maybe you can move the building onto the asphalt to minimize the clearing, but
Yeah.
you'll be eating up into your parking spaces then.
Yeah, I think there's like 2 spots there that, would be lost anyway, based on the configuration of the building,
Mhm.
because you're blocking an overhead door. So yeah, that's definitely an option.
Can you talk a bit about the proposed hydro action leaching pool outside of the clearing?
That's gonna be in the parking lot, the hydro action.
And
So
what is that? Explain
that's
it.
the IA treatment tank
Oh, for the septic?
for the septic, yes. Because the existing septic system is pretty much all the way to the south, so we're not gonna tie into that.
Can that be built and have parking over it?
Yes, it's traffic bearing, it's approved by the health department. And then just a standard 8x12 leaching pool with a traffic bearing slab. Drainage is proposed in the parking lot to reduce the, need for clearing for that.
So you'll take a look and reconfigure it somehow or another?
Yeah, I guess, or we can shrink the building a little bit.
And were you bringing electric or utilities to the building through the vegetated area, or?
Yeah, there's an existing electric meter in the northwest corner,
Okay.
and then, just,
But what's the routing of the utilities to that meter? Are you coming through the parking lot, or?
that wasn't proposed, but, we can look into that, so we
Because
can,
if you decide to cut through the vegetated area, that's additional
yeah, or
clearing
we
you're
could,
doing?
directionally drill.
Okay, any other questions? Anyone want to speak to this application? Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, so we'll close then with a 10-day written comment period. Motion by
Motion.
Craig, second by Gloria, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thanks,
Okay,
10
thank you.
days, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. So Christine, what's happening
We
with
do
that?
have notice, we have notice.
So can you-
Oh, okay, here we go.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I think we have to read it in, right?
Yes.
8 Woodridge Road.
Oh, have to read it in?
Yes.
Yes, George, please.
Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022, A public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, March 28, 2024, at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing, to consider the pre-application entitled 8 Woodridge Road. The pre-application consists of a standard plan with 2 undersized lots ranging from 8,763.32 square feet to 8,838.57 square feet, each to be improved with a single-family dwelling situated in the R20 zoning district at 8 Woodridge Road, Hamlet of Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-268-3-23.
Please.
Hi, my name is Maggie Vevrica. I'm here with North Star Engineering on behalf of our client to discuss the subdivision application for 8 Woodward Road in Hampton Bays. So we are proposing a 2-lot subdivision. Currently, the lot is .404 acres, which is 17,602.22 square feet. We are proposing to divide the lot into 2. One lot will be 8,763.32 square feet, or .201 acres, and the second lot will be 8,838.57 square feet, or 0.203 acres. We are asking for an lot area variance as well as front and rear yard variances and lot width variances. Required side yards are met for each of the lots. Required lot widths are 120 feet. Both lots will be 100 feet in width. Required front yards are 40 feet. We are proposing 30 feet for each lot, and rear yard setback requirements are 60 feet. And for lot 1, we're proposing 27.5 feet, and lot 2 will be 28.2 feet. I would just like to point out that even if we were not subdividing the lot, the rear and front yard setbacks would not be met, regardless if we were to develop the site. I would also just like to note that the neighboring lots, 22.1 and 22.2, have been subdivided, and although they are slightly larger in square footage than our proposed 2 lots, they also do not meet lot area requirements or the overall lot width requirements. And in addition, across the street, lots 5.1 and 5.2 were also subdivided with similar lot constraints and dimensions to what we are proposing.
Do you know the size of those lots that you're referencing?
I don't know, I looked between 9 to 10,000.
9 to 10,
Yeah.
and you're at 87 and 8,800.
Yes,
2 undersized lots.
yes.
Were they ever,
These were just, the ones next door. Here's the map from the 70s
Yeah,
that created them. They were roughly 8,900 square feet each. 89
Yeah.
and change.
were there ever 2 lots? Is that a merger, an inadvertent merger? Or was it once 2 lots that merged?
Our lot,
Yeah.
I am not sure.
Here, I can show you, Dennis. Here's the historic maps. So you can see here,
Okay.
this one does not appear to have been 2 lots. Same thing with the one next door that got that
Mhm.
variance from the 70s. But
And
this is the
acro-
historic
yeah.
map.
And across the street, I think it was lot 5, which is now 5.1 and 5.2, yeah, is now 2 lots.
So it's 1 lot that's undersized that you want to
Great.
subdivide.
Correct.
Thank you.
It's been done before.
So have you been to the ZBA yet?
No.
All right, well, maybe the taxpayers of Hampton Bays are in the mood to pay higher taxes. I must have been absent that day. Each house lot generates about $25,000 in school taxes, so I guess
We understand that.
I was absent that day.
so if you need a TDR credit, it has to come from within the same
Yes.
school district.
Yes, we have discussed that, and I believe our plan showed TDR calculations.
Therein lies where we do care, where it
Where
comes
it
from.
comes from.
the same
Where it comes, same
Yeah.
school
They're
district.
transferring a development plan?
I don't know, I'm just saying when you do something like that, well,
If the
that's gonna be the
ZBA
first thing the
isn't-
zoning board asks, is
the-
about the transfer.
Do you have a
development.
development
Exactly.
right you're transferring in?
We don't currently have them, we just put them on the plan to just, demonstrate that we understand they're necessary and how many credits would be necessary.
The ZBA might be inclined to, as Anthony said, ask for that. And that it has to originate from the same groundwater management zone.
Right, correct.
Oh, you're gonna need them anyway for health department.
We will, we,
So they're in line, now they have to come, now it makes a difference where the.
yeah, to get
health
approval
department
from the
comes.
subdivision from the health department.
Groundwater zone, but it doesn't have to come from the Hampton
No,
Bays.
but no, you're right, Dennis, but from a cost, perspective, if I was, doing a development right, I would wanna transfer one from the school district.
Very
as
hard to
groundwater.
find.
I know it's hard,
Yeah.
you're right about that.
And Hampton Bays is one of the highest density hamlets, and
I know.
to take an undersized lot and create more density than Hampton Bays. I mean, at some point, the residents are gonna, maybe,
And Anthony, you
Get
just
tired of it.
confirmed those adjacent lots and up and down the street farther, those were not done before the zoning was in place, that variances were granted for those?
Variances were granted for these two next door
in the seventies,
in
right?
the seventies,
Yeah. I think that's 50 years ago.
Long time
It's a
ago.
very different town 50 years ago.
Yeah.
What's
Okay.
interesting is, as you can just see here, back in 75, they were still zoned R20 at that time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is the second one we've had today.
Yeah,
So I guess it's a new trend. We're just gonna double the
double density.
population of the town
Yeah.
and hope the taxpayers don't notice.
With the traffic.
Or the
Or the
traffic,
traffic,
or
right.
all that other good stuff.
ZBA then.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Any other questions from you?
No.
Anyone from the audience? No. Anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, so we'll close with a 10-day written comment.
Motion.
Oh, this is pre-submission?
Yes.
So it's 30 days,
Oh, no.
right?
No, it's not pre-submission, I'm
I
sorry.
have it down as pre-submission.
Pre-application, pre-application.
Subdivision,
Yeah.
you don't need 30, you could do 10 if you want.
And
Okay, what was written is that. So 10-day written comment period.
motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we come to the big application for tonight, which is CVE Community Solar. And we held this open, so we don't need to read it into the record again.
I think they have counsel, 'cause
Do-
I wanted an affidavit. David, did you give me the affidavit?
Counsel?
Thank you.
So
We're
go-
good.
We're good, we're good
Yep.
to go. Okay, so if you'd like to make a brief presentation, I think everybody here knows about it, but for the record, please.
Absolutely. Stephen Engelman. I'm with CVE North America. Representing CVE, we are a North America-based independent power producer focused on the design, engineering, and construction of solar energy projects, community solar in the states where it's available. We are long-term owners of projects. We operate and maintain them for the long term. Typical community solar projects are in the 5 megawatt size range. Given the size of this property, this project's a bit smaller on the 2 megawatt range. I talked a bit about last time about how community solar works as a existing bill crediting program that folks can, residents and essentially PSCG ratepayers can opt into at no cost to enter or leave, which provides a 10% discount on solar energy bills. Community solar is not utility scale solar. Utility scale solar is a much larger development of solar projects in the 25 to 200 or 300 megawatt range. We're in the 2 megawatt range here. I wanted to mention that based on our last conversation, CV has listened to the input from the community. We've heard the concerns. We intend to address them and satisfy the residents. These are concerns that we hear quite frequently, and we have a good bit of information to provide to allay many of the fears. 3 things that I just want the planning board to consider in the application is that we're maintaining a 100-foot setback from the residential property line to the west. which includes an existing vegetative buffer of native plants and trees, which abut the western property line. We intend to add robust planting beyond that to further limit sound and also to limit visual impact on the residents to the west. All of the noise generating equipment that we have that we will be installing here will be located as far from those residents on the far east side of the property, about 335 feet from the closest property line. And the third thing is that this special exception use is a low impact development, which is permitted by the code. So, three things to consider. And I just wanted to mention that when researching large solar development, scale of project is critical. Again, we're talking about a 2 megawatt project here. Cannot be compared to projects, in the several hundred megawatt scale, and we'll provide some information to bolster that. There were a number of things that were brought up, which we can talk about. Noise, again, we've hired a third-party civil engineer to do a noise study at this site, and based on ambient sound levels that are there, and what we would be adding to it. Essentially, the ambient sound levels are at about 45 decibels at the property line. The western property line, we're going to be creating about 37 decibels of sound, which is less than the ambient sound. We feel that there will be literally no sound impact for residents at all. We are confident in that, and we can provide further information on that. But in consideration of the concerns that the residents have, we certainly can mitigate sound further, as needed. One thing we would talk about is a sound protective barrier that could be installed. We're installing one inverter and one transformer on the very east side of the property. We can install a sound barrier that would essentially buffer that sound even further, dampen it so that it wouldn't, even less would reach the opposite side of the property on the west side. So things like that CV is open to. We'd like to work with the community and the residents in terms of, and the planning department really in terms of how we can mitigate some of the concerns. There's a number of other concerns. EMF, a solar project puts out the same megagauss of EMF as household appliances. It puts it out at 60 hertz, which is the exact hertz rating that AC energy in people's homes already is. There is absolutely no impact from EMF. There are no harmful chemicals in the panels that we're using. There's two types of panels. You can research solar panels, and the old type that has been retired a long time ago had dangerous chemicals in it. That's many, many years ago, and the equipment that we're using is made from silicon. They're crystal silicon panels. There is no dangerous chemicals in them. There is no leaking. There is no chemical emissions from them. They are 100% safe. The silicon that is used to make the silicon cells comes from sand. It's one of the most commonly found elements on the earth. So we're using very safe equipment. In terms of impact, we're maintaining as much of the natural vegetation as we can. We've identified a number of invasive species of plants that are growing on the site. We would like to replant with more native species. Any impacts to wildlife would be mitigated as well. We're planning on creating wildlife habitat in the development of this project, birdhouses, bat boxes, habitat piles, such that habitat can continue to flourish on the property. We plan on using agricultural fencing, which will allow wildlife of all sizes to be able to go freely through the property. We'll be installing that fence so it's a couple inches off the ground. So in addition to the big spacing of the agricultural fencing, which is used throughout Long Island's agricultural sector, we'll be installing it such that animals can pass through and under it. I guess I would close with the existing use on the site. The existing site as it is, will be improved through the solar development. We plan on addressing many piles of debris and construction materials that are on that site. We looked at this site as a perfect use to repurpose this site, which has been environmentally impacted, largely cleared of native species of trees already, and to improve that and to better use this for the sake of solar energy. When the village had considered what they could do on this site, they wanted to try to find the least impact that they could possibly find, which was solar development. There's no traffic, there's no municipal services needed. I'll argue that there's no noise. So this was really the least impactful use that the village could find for this project, and they felt that this was the best use for the residents. And we of course agree with that, and we'll I'd like to present some more information when the time comes. And I
Do
can-
you operate any facilities like this on Long Island?
We operate, we've got about 20 sites right now, totaling right now 70 megawatts of energy. We've got another 30 megawatts that are coming online. We've done that from Massachusetts to New York. Those are where the community solar states where these programs are available.
What would be the closest facility similar to this?
There's not a lot of community solar facilities on Long Island. We don't have one on Long Island. It's been a little bit difficult. It's a new program, for one thing, and really, it's hard because the utility, in order to inject power into the utility, there's conditions that have to be present for us to be able to even do that. And that's harder and harder to find on Long Island in terms of being able to inject power back into the grid. So we're restrained, by the utility's ability to accept that power. We've done a full application to the utility and gotten approval for this project, which is a very rare case, where the energy, we consider a load pocket, where the energy that we can generate at this site is going to be able to be used in that immediate area. That's how the utility is trying to build out their infrastructure, is not by centralized power plants that send power over long distances. Distributed generation means that we build small solar and wind projects and other types of fuel projects within the communities where the power will be used.
Do you have a list or website with the locations and the power generation capability?
I do,
so
yeah. That was in our original site plan. I can submit
Okay,
that through.
I'd like to see that.
Absolutely. Happy to provide it.
So I just have some sort of backstory questions, because I'm a little confused.
Okay,
West Hampton Beach owns this property.
correct.
Did you come to them with this proposal to lease it?
I would say the village was interested in finding a use for the property, and we presented an opportunity for them to be able to do a solar development. I think that they were considering solar development prior to speaking to us, but we brought them an opportunity to build a solar project.
And does that have to go through town board approval or only through planning board? That's what I'm trying to find out the
Yeah,
process.
that
here.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's the zoning the zoning's not the issue, so it wouldn't go to the town board, but, I don't know whether or not we had this discussion before, as of right, why didn't we get notification, or did we get notification? I don't know,
Right.
because we're within
That's
500
really
feet.
what I'm
I don't
after.
know.
Did we, the town, ever get notification from West Hampton Beach Village that this was the intention for this parcel smack against a residential community? Right there.
Mhm.
And so we are left with trying to sort of sort out the pieces here
Mhm.
without, hopefully Southampton Town will do an energy overlay so that we can determine where these sites should go, as opposed to the tail wagging the dog, which is telling us where you want to go. So,
Did you respond to a request for proposal from the village? Or
That was kind of prior
it's
to my
more
time
informal?
with CVE, so I'm not exactly sure of the steps that led to that. Apologies, I've been involved with the project from that, after that date.
so we're trying to suss out, sort out that cloudy
history of this,
beginning
right?
of it, how it all started.
Okay.
And because it was news to us when we were presented with it. So, and now we have to carefully move forward or not.
Right.
This could well not be the right use for this parcel.
Okay.
So.
It is a permitted use, for this type of parcel, but, that's of course for the planning department, kind of go through.
Is
and-
that in our code? Is it, what is
It's
the?
an OSC.
Oh, I see.
OSC.
My understanding is the code was changed last year, in 2023, to allow for OSC and solar.
What is
community.
OSC?
Opportunity,
Subdivision,
to know
Yeah, I
something.
have to look a little more
Do
closely.
you know what it is, Dave?
okay.
Because I haven't looked at this project. This is,
This is not your project?
yeah. will not work.
David Gilmartin Jr., Greenberg Traurig.
Yes.
I'm counsel for CVE. If you look at your chapter 330, your special exception uses for solar energy systems, commercial scale, it creates opportunity areas, and it says regardless of current zoning classification, the following shall be considered for the siting of commercial scale solar energy systems, primary or accessory use, and we fit into two categories within that law.
So your solar, that's one, and what's the other
it's,
one?
You're allowed to place it on certain types of properties. This is a landfill, and it's a municipal property. So we're allowed to put it on this property based on the existence of
Okay,
those
well,
two
we'll look
uses.
into that. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, we have,
Can I ask a
yes,
question?
I'm
Just
sorry,
under-
George,
under-
yeah.
Seeing that we've had, so full disclosure, I live the street, one street away from this, but I'm asking, the question I'm gonna ask relates specifically to the site plan layout that you have.
Sure.
Now that we've had a chance, we've had a week to 2 weeks to review the site plan you've put here together, and hearing the concerns of the immediate neighbors and neighbors who are also within the adjacent development. I noticed that you have, you're maintaining the existing access point to the property. So you have an access road on the east side of it, but then you dogleg across and come back directly to where the existing access is right now. And off that access, immediately after the second or third house, you have a number of smaller transformers, communication equipment, and pads and so on. Is there any thought to just bring that road all the way out in line with the eastern property lease line and connecting to the next pole over rather than the one right at the gate? So as a way of keeping all of your potential disturbances as far away from the properties as you can?
If I could answer in a procedural way, Stephen can answer specifically, but we're here for a pre-submission conference, right? So, we'll get a report back, and if there are suggestions, we'll work through that process with this board on all of the issues that are raised, right? That's why we have secret and how we get through those processes. So yeah, that's certainly a consideration. Everything's on the table.
Any other
Agree with
questions
that.
before we go to the?
No.
We have a lot of speakers here and on Zoom as well, so
I think there are a
just-
couple also that didn't get to sign in that want to speak, just so you
Okay.
know.
So, just in the interest of all of us, if someone has just said what you want to say, you can stand up and say, they just said what I want to say, I don't need to speak. And so we can get to hear everybody, okay? So I'm going to call people in the order that they've signed. So James Osborne first, followed by Chris Osborne.
Jamie.
Jamie, yes.
And I would just like to state.
Do you have to come up,
to the
Jamie? Come up
podium.
to the podium
Unfortunately,
because of the recording equipment.
yeah.
My name is Jamie Osborne. I live at 5 Jennifer's Path, property that's directly abutting the proposed plan. And I just want to go on record saying that I oppose the project.
Great, thank you. And Chris Osborne?
Hi, my name's Chris Osborne. I live at 5 Jennifer's Path, and I just wanted to bring out a little information to the board as also getting my opposed view on this project, but also to let you know that those of us that started off in this Quiog Woods project, this was a project started back through Vince Canuzio and Skip Heaney. Many of us are firefighters, police officers, EMTs, medical providers, teachers, and people that serve this community. We were given an opportunity to stay here and continue to serve in this community by giving an opportunity to have our homes right there in Quiog. We oppose this project for those simple reasons, because we don't want this in our backyard. That's plain and simple. Right now, there's wildlife, there's a wildlife preserve, there's a wildfowl corridor through there as well. So please take this into consideration. And also,
will.
just for the record, you brought up something very interesting. We were never notified as residents abutting this property from the Village of West Hampton Beach that any of this was considered. And I don't think we ever heard an answer as to whether this company was approached by the Village of West Hampton Beach or they approached the Village of West Hampton Beach. So they're very good questions, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, it's hard for me. Drew? Is there a Drew? Can you make that out?
Darren.
That's it.
There's
That's
a D in
it.
it, we know that.
Sorry, I'm letting you go to Catholic school, so my handwriting.
Oh, you did not get penmanship,
Yeah,
right?
no, I'm Darren Cummings, I'm from 16 Jennifer's Path. Just to get away from everybody, so the financial situation I see in the situation is that, from what I understand, the village of West Hampton Beach is not going to create a tremendous amount of value from the situation, okay? The amount of money that they're going to generate from their is not substantial to what is going to be on this property. So I don't know the exact numbers. From what I've understood, it's like maybe they're going to pay $22,000 a year to rent this property. They're going to generate $1 million a year in profits. So that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. Everybody else is going to talk about what they have to do. I don't want to waste your time about this, that, the other thing, but that's one thing that I want to throw out there. Being as a financial guy, this doesn't make much financial sense to the village of West Hampton
Yeah.
Beach. All right, so I want to step up, and everyone else is going to tell their thing, but just to give you a quick heads
Great,
up.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good point. Okay, Sean Gallagher, followed by Joe Letao? Littio. Lido.
Lido.
You didn't have penmanship either.
Or there's people signing in instead of printing in.
Yeah, hello, my name is Sean Gallagher.
Sean
I
Gallagher.
live at 18 Jennifer's Path.
Yep.
I just want to go on record that I oppose this project. The area that they want to build this solar farm in is absolutely it's definitely not a dump, as it has been referred to. I use it myself. I walk back there frequently. I use it to connect to the Quag Wildlife Refuge. There is a lot of animal and wildlife back there. And it just doesn't seem to me to make any sense to put in some kind of renewable energy where you have to cut down all the trees to put it in there. I believe a solar farm belongs on a farm or in some other open space that I'm sure is available on the east end of Long Island.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you.
Joe Lido?
Lido.
Lido.
In Philadelphia, I'm known as Lido. In New York, I'm known as Lido.
Lido.
That's all. Good to see you all again. Thank you for your
Yes.
scrutiny and your efforts. I'll be brief. I just, the parcel's so narrow, that's my concern. And I actually Googled, I downloaded an app, an AI app, and I asked it what the minimum distances are for solar farms in New York. And it stated 250 feet as a minimum distance. Now, it also said that that may not apply in the township or the county or municipality in which you live. And I don't even know if that is in fact the truth, 250 feet. But 100 feet is like, it's such a small distance. I mean, it's literally in our backyards, literally in our backyards. And so I don't know if those are accurate numbers, but that is real. I just wanted to just introduce that idea to the board. So,
Good.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe Lido. We have Chris Clapp, followed by John Lynch.
Hello there. I'd like you guys all to, consider the actual facts of the situation. So I had in a
Excuse me, Chris, can you just give your name and your
Chris
address?
Clapp, 51 Rogers Avenue, West Hampton Beach. The solar is something that I'd been paying attention to for some time. A long time ago, in a whole different career, I had the opportunity to serve on a model code community scale solar team under then supervisor Ed Romaine. The chair of that committee was ironically Dave Colon, and it was a cooperative effort between the planning department at Suffolk County and Brookhaven Town and the towns in the East End. And when I was doing this as part of an environmental organization, so there was industry folks in the room who wanted as much land as they could get, And there were a bunch of environmental advocates who wanted to keep them honest and protect wildlife, and then a whole bunch of other community advocates as well. And so it was a diverse group, and we had this prolonged process of what types of zoning were applicable, looking at setbacks and what types of setbacks. And so the town of Brookhaven was tasked with coming up with model code that other towns could adopt. And at the time, again, this is a long time ago, materials were much different, panels were less efficient. The minimum lot size they were looking for was a 10 acres piece of property at a minimum, and it had to be, ideally, was industrial zoned or similar. But then there were allowances for different types of agriculture, because if the farmer wanted to lease his property for a solar farm, there was constitutionally at that moment nothing to really prevent that. And so this process went on, and it kept getting winnowed down, right? So they needed to be a minimum distance to, or a maximum distance to, a substation, so they had somewhere to feed the power to. But then again, they couldn't put too much power into a specific substation, so that they couldn't take the wattage that people's home solar could feed into the grid, right? So all of these things got taken into consideration. Setbacks, I believe at the time we had settled on a 75-foot setback, and that was done by going out in the field and actually looking at what different size buffers and setbacks look like, and kind of a cost-benefit analysis of, obviously the industry folks didn't want setbacks, or they wanted 25-foot setbacks, or, and it depended on the use, right? So if it was a sod farm and it was already open, then you had to revegetate completely, because the agricultural folks were allowed to clear right up to the edges of their lines. So, just for contextual flavor, this is why you see Riverhead has, I don't know, about a dozen or so, maybe more, community and maybe a couple industrial scale solar farms. And Brookhaven has a few. You'll hear also, the things that the group contemplated was, the use of runways and edges of runways, because the panels are non-reflective. It's not like they're the glossy glass ones. So now, if you go down Sunrise Highway, you'll see the solar farm that surrounds the edge of the runway at Calabro Airport, right? So they utilize that space.
When was this study done?
Oh, good God.
That sounds like a long time ago,
I'd say 2010 or so.
14 years ago.
Yeah. If I had to guess. So, fast forward to, I live in this community now. I understand new things are difficult. There was a development planned for a old asphalt mill at the end of our road. They wanted to put 55 units on 9 acres of property. The community, obviously, in an existing residential neighborhood, not much bigger than yours. Community was obviously upset. We looked at, so we got together as a community, just like these folks have, which they should, and looked at what other things could we propose, right? So we went down the path of, can we get some CPF funds and turn it into a park, right? That didn't, the seller wasn't interested. Could the village, propose a solar farm at the property instead of 55 units within an existing residential neighborhood? It was ideal because the majority of the property was already gravelled. There was some vegetation and there was already clearing restriction easements on the first 75 feet of property going into the clearing restrictions were already there abutting the residential properties. So it seemed ideal. That the developer was just not interested, and now we have, we were able to talk them down from their desired number of units to their as of right number of units, which is 36 on a 9 acre lot.
Well,
it's still not ideal.
Interesting to hear your planning terminology. Not obviously knowledgeable in this area. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not something I imagined pursuing, but I enjoyed the process, and
It's a great process. Yeah.
all processes are bumpy and, never a straight line. But I think, fast forward to where we are now, and I think the abutting community needs to look at what else could happen that might not have a 100-foot setback, right? If it's still zoned for all sorts of other uses, you don't know what's going to come in there next, right? That would be nice, but it's not zoned.
Just address us, okay?
Sorry,
So
I'm just saying, if you
Thank you.
don't know what's going to come in, so this might be one of the least impactful, best uses of the property.
Yeah.
They could add wildlife to a solar farm by planting wildflowers, native grasses. It could be more of a native grassland, and I'd encourage the developers to consider that, is if they, instead of graveling underneath the solar panels, vegetate with native grassland type species and make it a pollinator pathway so that you're actually enhancing wildlife. Grasslands are a diminishing habitat on Long Island.
Okay, so why don't you,
Go ahead, I'm done.
you can submit, we have a lot of people who.
Yeah, sorry about
So I'm
that.
just moving you along.
Thank you.
But put it in a letter, put your ideas together and send it to us. We'll be collecting that with a 10-day written notice. John Lynch?
Okay, I'm gonna let Kara back over first, and then I'll go after.
Okay.
Good evening.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you again tonight. As you know, I'm Kara Back. I am the Director of Housing for the town of Southampton, but I'm not speaking to you in that capacity tonight. I'm speaking to you as a neighboring property owner. I live on Jennifer's Path. While we all here tonight acknowledge the importance and benefit of renewable energy initiatives, it is crucial for the planning board to carefully consider the location of this project to ensure that there are minimal negative impacts to our town. We're not NIMBYs, as we've been accused of in the newspaper. Lots of us, including me, have solar on our roofs. I have a battery-operated car outside in the parking lot. We simply are people who are greatly concerned about the impacts of having a commercial solar farm located within 100 feet of our homes, and the impacts of having an inverter that will be located within 300 feet of our homes. I'm asking this board to please weigh the impacts of this project against the benefit it brings to only 400 people, up to 400 people, when you make your decision. I think that you will see that this wooded, narrow property adjacent to an established neighborhood is an avoidance area and not an opportunity area, and it is not the appropriate location for a commercial solar farm. Please think about the property value impact. When thousands of property sales were analyzed in Rhode Island and Massachusetts over a 15-year period by economists at the University of Rhode Island, they found that property values of homes located within 1/10 of a mile or 530 feet of solar installations went down by 7%. The largest impacts were seen in suburban communities when solar projects were built on a farm or on forested property. While 7% may not seem like a lot, we do not know the financial impact on residential properties located within 100 feet of solar projects. It is important to note that these impacts will be had upon the town's workforce. As you heard, the neighborhood consists of a local teacher, local school administrator, town police officer, village code enforcement officer, local nurse, and me, a town employee. That's just to name a few. They are the very people that will be using the equity in their homes to finance their children's college educations and retirement. And they are the very people that this town is trying so hard to keep living within the town where they work. And the impact will not be felt by just the adjoining neighboring properties. The same Rhode Island study reported that property values within 1 mile of the project will decline. The study confirms that a commercial-scale solar development is clearly not a compatible use within an established residential area. The town code imposes a minimum setback of 100 feet for parcels developed with residential dwellings or platted for future residential development. There is a University of Pennsylvania study that recommends a setback of at least 300 feet from any property boundary. Other studies recommend a setback of 500 to 1,000 feet from residential properties. Many governments do not allow full coverage of the whole parcel, and in most cases, only 60% of the land will be used for the project. I am asking the planning board to please consider the impacts that this project will have on the established neighborhood and impose a setback of greater than 100 feet so it is more in line with these studies. The proposed project is in the woods, and CVE will have to clear cut 11 acres of woodlands to install this project. The east side of the property will remain woodland, connecting all the way to Quogue Wildlife Refuge. The west side borders the existing neighborhood where I reside. Solar farm fires can and do occur due to various factors such as electrical faults or equipment malfunctions. Because this project is in such close proximity to established homes on one side, and then many acres of woodlands connecting all the way to Quogue Wildlife on the other, there is a real risk of great destruction. I have lived here long enough to remember the devastation of the wildfires in 1994 that swept through the Pine Barrens in West Hampton. The applicant stated that the property is full of debris and has been cleared, but I have pictures of my property and shows its woodlands, so I'd like to hand these in to the board. These are two of my property and one of my neighbor's properties. The woods is not an appropriate site for a solar farm, but if allowed, a greater setback should be required to protect the neighboring homes and woodlands, and the developer should invest in strict fire safety measures and provide safety equipment and training to the local fire departments. Forest land is a scarce resource, and it's growing increasingly scarce, especially along South Country Road in Quogue. When forests are clear-cut and developed into solar, it's felt by the community. You lose green space and add industrial viewscape. I am asking that you allow this project, that if you allow this project, to please require the developer to heavily screen the property with trees that are planted closely together, that have dense foliage, tall heights, and year-round coverage. There is no doubt that inverters make a buzzing noise on a continuous basis all day long. Not only will this noise be disturbing to the neighboring property owners, this noise will likely have an impact on the migratory animals inhabiting the woodlands and fragment their habitat. Because the property is only 500 feet wide, there is no escaping the sound of the inverters. If you allow this project, I ask that you please require the developer to install the strictest sound barrier protection enclosing the inverters and transmitters. The proposal places the solar panels within 100 feet of our homes. In all likelihood, we will experience a glare reflection from the solar panels that will be situated so close to our properties. I ask that you require the developer to site the solar panels in such a way to minimize the glare onto the neighboring properties and onto the drivers along South Country Road. The Department of Energy and FAA have determined that glare from solar arrays could result in ocular impact to pilots. A glare analysis should be done to determine whether the glare from the 4,000 proposed solar panels will interfere with the landing of private and military aircraft at the adjacent Grobeski Airport. Last, I would like to add my own narrative. This solar farm offers negligible benefits to the town. It will serve only up to 400 customers at the expense of great environmental, social, and visual impact to the rest of the community. Once that property is clear-cut, it's clear-cut forever. The village of West Hampton Beach is earning only $22,000 from a lease, less than $2,000 a month for 11 acres, while the developer can earn more than $1 million a year. Certainly, when the developer seeks to earn $25 million over the course of the lease, while only expending $550,000 in rent to the village and another $1 million in construction costs, the developer can afford the cost of the strictest mitigation measures and certainly a sufficient bond to cover the maintenance of the trees, the site, and the decommission of the site after the lease is over. In light of the significant environmental, social, and aesthetic concerns that this project proposes, it is clear that the proposed location is an avoidance area and not an opportunity area. It's in the middle of the woods and within 100 feet of established homes. It's just not a suitable location. However, if you should find that it is, I urge you to please consider minimizing the negative impacts this project will have on the adjoining neighborhood and surrounding communities. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Could I ask you a question? You cited a number of studies in your presentation. Would you have the ability to send us an email with links to those studies?
Yes.
To the board?
Yes.
Okay.
I will prepare a letter, a report for the board, and I will include all those sites with it.
Great,
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
that. Thank you so much.
John?
Good evening and thank you. Thank you for listening to us again as the residents who live right next to this site. I live at 21 Jennifer's Path with my wife Kara and 2 children. And Chairman, I think you asked a good question. How did we get here? How did this all come about on that? And it is a good question as far as where's the chicken and who's the egg on it. And there was an article in the Southampton Press, talking about, dated February 8, 2023, over a year ago, basically talking about the West Hampton Village Board last week approved a lease agreement with CVE North America of Delaware, which plans to install a commercial solar power farm on village-owned property on Queog. We just found out about this really 2 weeks ago on it. And according to the article, they've been working on this since 2021 to put this in. And the article goes further on to say that Trustee Brian Tiemann brought the proposal from CVE to the village in October 2021 to lease the property in June 2022. The company offered an official proposal to lease the land for 25 years with the option to renew the lease for 2 additional 5-year terms after that. You should note that Trustee Brian Tiemann has a solar company. He works for a solar company on that. And I do not know whether or not he has worked together with CVE or whether Stephen knows Brian from before that. We have foiled on September 15th. Not September 15th, sorry, but on March 15th, after we had our meeting on the 14th, I did send a foil into the village asking, we haven't seen a copy of the lease. We haven't seen anything in regard to how this occurred. And I'll just submit this as a copy of the foil that I submitted. And also, I just want to read a little more from the article, and then I'll submit a copy of this article onto that. So the village, and it indicates, how much money the village would receive as far as in connection with the lease. And at the time, board members were happy with the final terms of the lease. They said during board meeting on February 2nd, Brian, and this is a quote, "Brian, thank you for bringing this to us," Mayor Maria Moore said to Timon. "You're the one that initially advocated for this. It's going to be a pretty fun project if they can get the approval of the town." Fun. Timon said he was confident it would be approved, saying, "The town seems to be headed in the right direction." Okay, all that. Now, this was on February 2nd, 2023. Well, there was a new amendment to the code that supposedly allows for this to take place on February 28th, 2023 on that. So they signed the lease prior to the code that they believe would allow them to build this solar farm onto this property. If we look at the statute on that, and we look at the legislative intent, so obviously the intent is to have used solar power. And we're all for that. Really, we are. It's just that where it's going to be in this residential neighborhood, I don't think there's any that they can show where they have the size of this array. If you look at it, it's full onto this. As to whether or not this should be allowed. Now, solar is for the environment, but they're sacrificing green for green, which shouldn't take place. This is a wooded area. It's not a landfill. It's not one of those uses. It never was a landfill on that. It's got forest in there, thousands of trees on that. There are animals living through there. People go back and forth through there to Quogue Wildlife, which is the neighbor right next door, on that, and travel back and forth through that property onto it. If you look at the legislative intent of this, and the third paragraph, about the middle, it said, the code starts out with designating previously disturbed sites as opportunity areas for large-scale solar, and deters applications that would clear forest and natural woodlands that have intrinsic value for ecosystems, habitat, and clean drinking water. I mean, what they're trying to do is against the legislative intent of what this statute is setting forth. The other thing is that one of the objectives of this, the Solar Energy Local Law goes on to say, is they wanted to build this with the following objectives. And one of them is to mitigate potential impacts of solar energy systems on environmental resources, such as agricultural lands and prime agricultural soils, our soil source aquifer, forest, wildlife, and other protected resources. And there's a great deal of wildlife that's there. You know, we hope that when we do have to go forward, we'll have naturalists from Quogue Wildlife that's going to indicate these wildlife go back and forth between Quogue Wildlife and through this property. There's a fox that lives not too far from my house. I'm a little worried about my cat that goes out there, but the fox seems to like the cat, so we're okay, on that. But there are bats, there are all kinds of birds, there are rabbits, there are turkeys. I mean, I walk my son back there, and he thinks it's a forest, it's a park, and he's wondering why are they trying to take this away at this point. So it's zoned as park recreational. That's what we saw when we bought the property. I'm a lawyer. We looked at, I do real estate. I admit I don't do zoning, but I'm learning right now on this, And we looked to see, first, who's the property behind it? There's woods. Who owns this property? Can it be developed? We find out the village owns it. Now, it's very strange. The village owns property in the town of Southampton. This property is not in the village of West Hampton Beach on it. And that's a little different. I found out since I did a title search, and I have a deed from 1959 where it looks like this family, there's about 9 people of the same names, all deeding the property over to the village. They didn't put any kind of covenants on it, but it has the 13 acres. The paper refers to a deed back in 1953, which I had not seen, so I'm not sure if there's some question on the deed or on the title in connection with the property on that. But it was one time used by the village, I think, for some of their public works. It hasn't been used in years for that. I believe since most of the people here, I think they've been there since 1999 when the property was developed. We've been there a little shorter on that. We're the newbies, as far as living there on it. But they said nothing's ever been used. There's never been any kind of change onto that. It's always been this wooded area on it. Now, my question, that'll come forward is that certain properties are to be allowed then, as far as, anticipating and hoping for, allowing for solar energy to be used, that they have certain areas which they're calling for these commercial scales as opportunity areas. And what they were talking about, and what they lead off with, is number one, landfills. Mr. Martin said this is a landfill. It is not a landfill. No one's filling anything in there on that, or has filled anything in there. Sand mines, pre-existing non-conforming light industrial uses that can be converted to solar. That was 3. 4, junkyards. 5, existing parking lots. 6, golf courses where scenic view sheds or other environmental sensitive areas are not impacted. 7, designated cleanup sites or other land designated by the New York State Department of NYSDEC or other relevant agencies for environmental cleanup. It's not a cleanup site. It's not a brownfield on that. Previously disturbed areas defined as land which has undergone substantial disturbance, construction, or demolition activities as a result of previous land uses prior to the effective date of this chapter, including parcels within the Central Pine Barrens. And if standard guidelines are met, a hardship waiver has been granted. Roofs of existing commercial structures. This is where they were thinking about putting these solar things, where they wouldn't be affecting people, wouldn't be in residential areas. And then it indicates number 10, municipal properties. I'll get back to that. Parcels that have been previously cleared prior to 1995 that can reasonably be expected to have continuous solar access considering clearing restrictions within the Aquifer Protective Overlay District. And 12, recharge basins, or other parcels set aside through the subdivision process. Let's get back to what municipal properties are. Yeah. This property is in the town of Southampton, but it happens to be owned by the village of West Hampton Beach. West Hampton Beach is not being used for municipal use by West Hampton Beach. West Hampton Beach's role here, they're a landlord. They're a property owner just like anybody else. They don't get this special exception that they can use this property for. It was for the town itself. If it's for town of Southampton property, town of Southampton can't tell the village of West Hampton Beach what to do with their properties, but it's not there. It's like if I had the town of Passaic, New Jersey, and if I left my property, or that property was left to the town of Passaic, New Jersey, would they be allowed then to put a solar farm there? Because they say, oh, we're in municipal property. That is clearly not the intent of what this statute means. And when we take it with the legislative intent as far as not affecting, green for green, that is not the purpose, not what this is about. And I think if anybody takes a look at it, I think they might say, hey, I think and when I talked to people in the village, or some of the trustees, they had no idea. Some of them had no idea what they were doing or what was going on. Now, they'd say that they could not get this file map or the plan until they signed the lease. So basically, EBC said to them, sign the lease first, and then we'll show you what we're going to do with the property. And when they saw the size of this, they were shocked onto it. And so now it's like, but what's happening? When we talk to the village, when I talked to the village, they said, well, it's not our problem, it's the process. We're punting it to, let the town take care of it. It's the towns, they're the ones. They're negating their municipal requirement of duty. They can't say, oh, well, it's not our responsibility as a municipality. Oh, but we want this special exception as municipal property to allow us to be landlords for the solar farm.
Okay. John, I have to move forward.
Yes, I am finished. Thank you very much.
But, submit whatever documents you want
Right.
to us so that we can
I will submit a
review
copy
them.
of the article. If you want to see the article that was written that talks about, might answer some of the questions about how
Yeah.
it started. And hopefully I'll get my foil and I'll have more information.
Good.
Good. Thank you very much.
You could share it with us, thank you. Ellen Worth, followed by Leela Masi.
Hi, Ellen Worth, 4 Jennifer's Path. Jackie, I might look familiar to you. John Blaney was my former partner.
Yes.
Hi, Dennis.
Yes. Miss him.
I do live across the street where this comes in the back. I oppose this project. I think with the airport there, environmentally, not the right place for this project. I would wonder why they would have to research the noise if this is something they do all the time. How many of those projects run into a back of a residential area? How did the village approve without any notification? Concern, not the right spot.
Good.
I oppose.
Thank you, Ellen. Leela?
Good evening. Hi, I'm Layla Massey at 3 Jennifer's Path. Plain and simple, it's too darn close. And let's say what it really is, a solar industrial installation. It's not a farm. Speaking of transformers and inverters, I'm the most concerned, it's right behind my house. And it seems to jut in where it looks like it's even less than 100 feet, in my opinion. I don't know. I can't read the map completely. I have a natural buffer behind my house of trees I did not cut down that is in my yard. I want to keep it there. I hope they know exactly where the land ends and begins for them, right? Supposedly, I got to speak to the mayor of West Hampton Beach, Ralph Urban. He actually called me back when I left him a message this week. And he told me that there were articles written about this and that there were several meetings. And I said, well, if there's so many articles and meetings, how come nobody knew about it? Okay, we're the neighbors. How come we weren't informed so we could have our say on this? He told me when the meetings were 5 o'clock on Wednesday. I work at 5 o'clock on Wednesday. By the way, I'm a counselor. And yes, I agree. We moved in there when it was for people that could affordable housing for certain people, you know, and I was one of the lucky ones that got a house there. So he never gave me what papers and what articles they put out way before this happened. Then I also spoke to Rob Rubio, trustee of West Hampton Beach, and he basically, they were trying to defend it, both of them were at first, and then both of them said, our hands are tied, it's up to you guys, not them anymore. Although Rob was sympathetic, and he did say that it was really partially Maria Moore, former Mayor Maria Moore, had something to do with this, and he was going to speak to her on my behalf. I appreciate that. Also, I was concerned about that 25-year lease. 25 years. Doesn't the technology advance like gangbusters? So whatever they put in today may not even be viable 5 years from now. You know, so they're going to keep changing it. I don't know. I'm not an expert at this. I'm just learning about this myself because I never had to before. Who's really gaining from this? Yes, Brian Tyman, as people have spoken about, is also a trustee in West Hampton Beach. And I learned he was a consultant for a solar energy company. Is this not a conflict of interest? I ask you, right? I also read the article in the Southampton Press where he was very condescending. What he said in the article is, quote, there wasn't much merit to the neighbors' objections. It seems obvious that there is some NIMBYism here. It's no surprise that the only people complaining about it are the neighbors. Yeah. Especially since it's 100 feet from our property. Another quote, at the time the lease was approved, he felt it was a win-win for the village and the community, he said. I really thought this was going to be something that everyone liked. He added, I really did. Really? He didn't bother to ask the neighboring community first. Who's winning and how are we benefiting? People talked about how it's not going to be all that beneficial, right? 10% of our energy bill reduced? Come on. Well, let's put it in his backyard then. How about that? Find out how much he really likes it. Would they have voted to approve this project in their own backyards? That's what I ask. I know I'm not winning. I'm losing. My health, my well-being, and my peace of mind have all been affected, as the stress of fighting this industrial project has already taken its toll on me. When we sold my parents' house on 27 Oak Street in West Hampton Beach, we had to tear down a shed because it was too close to the neighbors' houses, because my father didn't have a proper permit for it. How close is too close for a sober industrial facility? Authorities recommend maintaining a distance of 3 kilometers. That's what I read, roughly 1.8 miles in July of 23. Glare is inevitable, noise from the equipment, inverters can be disruptive. Wi-Fi can be affected, by the way. The inverters should be the farthest away from the homes, and it's the closest in this project. What about the train? Not only the airport, but the train is right there too. Is the glare going to affect the train? We don't know. It's in very close proximity. Any consideration to that? These facilities are so new that long-term effects are unknown. From the pre-submitted a site plan application, how is this zoning for Quiog East Recreation Tourism Plan Development? How is that fitting into that? I guess the win-win situation Brian Tyman is referring to is our house value plummeting while his will not be affected one bit. He has a win-win. Thank you.
Thank you. Corey Williams, followed by Donna Goebel.
Corey Williams, 23 Jennifer's Path. I just want to voice my opposition to the solar panels.
Thank you. Donna?
Hi, Donna Goebel, 23 Jennifer's Path, and I oppose this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Richard?
Feltig.
Richard, you live at 1699 County Road 39? Anybody sound familiar?
That sounds like something for Atlantic Hotel.
Richard.
Okay, how about Lou Di Pasquale? Lou.
He prints nice.
The founding father, right?
My name is Lou Di Pasquale. I spoke to you the last time. I guess everybody already hit on everything, so there's not really much more to say on the setbacks. That's really a big issue that we have, right, and the noise. On a side note, while I was researching this, I couldn't help but wonder how much the property value, 13-plus acres, would be. How much would they get? And I think it was like in 2008, it was appraised for or assessed at $3.3 million. So that was 16 years ago. So I'm thinking, what could it be? Somebody had said like $1 million an acre. I'll give it $8 million for the 13, right? So I do the math and I said, well, if they went ahead and sold it for $8 million today, but they're gonna be getting $22,000 a year, in order for them to break even, it would take 363 years.
Yes, yeah.
For them to break even,
You're good with that
right?
math.
So I said, okay. That's when I started looking a little further. And I said, who negotiates something like that? I don't live in the village, but I'll tell you what, the people in the village, they should really start paying attention to who's running the show over there when it comes to numbers like that, right? So then I read this article, and I'm going to have to reiterate what they said about Brian Timon, because I read this article, and it says he was the one in the press. I had read it, and he's on a trust. He's a trustee, and he was the one that spearheaded this whole proposal to the village. So, like everybody else, Google Brian Timon, and right here, and I'm going to hand it in. BGT Consulting began a renewable energy consulting firm. And I looked, Brian Timon, founder and CEO. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. And also their motto is connecting the dots. I think we connected the dots when you asked your question, who approached who on this one. So I'd like to just hand this in.
Please,
Okay, I want to thank you very much for asking questions.
thank you.
You know, we really do appreciate it, you know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sally Booth, followed by Barbara Satoring,
Thank you.
something like
You can
that.
send it after. then we can record
Sally?
it for 10.
My name's Sally Booth. I live in Quogue. Please tell Brian, what's his name, that I am not a neighbor of this project, but after all I've heard tonight, I agree with these people who live in Quogue that this seems like it needs a lot more research and controls. I'm here on behalf of the Quogue Wildlife Refuge. I am not on the board there, but I know that the board members were not told about this project until 2 weeks ago. They were not informed. So they would like to learn more about the environmental impact on nature. Of course, what we've heard here is it's going to affect people, and that's, of course, most important, but we'd also like to know. My relatives gave that land to the Quogue Wildlife Refuge 85 years ago to protect nature and wildlife there. How will this development of the solar panels affect that? And will it be deleterious or not? That's a question I'm here to ask. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara, how do you pronounce your last name?
Sartorius.
Sartori.
Okay, I'm Barbara Sartorius. I also am a resident of Quogue, but we're part of the town of Southampton, so a greater family. And the reason I'm here is similar because of the Quogue wildlife. We've heard from a lot of residents today, and I want you to know we're very pro-solar. Just I think it needs some more thought. We've heard from a lot of residents. The residents you haven't heard from are the ones that live at the Quag Wildlife. The animals, the bugs, the bees that make your life pleasant. And the Quag Wildlife is open for everybody. I'm afraid this could have, particularly from what I've heard, when people are concerned about noise, and you kindly offered to relocate the noise to the eastern side, that's over by the Quag Wildlife. So what I really think we need to have is a greater study, environmental study, on what this impact of something so close would be on nature, and an independent study. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anybody else in the room who I haven't called? Please. I'll add your name to this list.
My name is Molly Hill, and I live at 15 Jennifer's Path, and I am opposing this solar farm. And one of the questions I have for the board is that with this information that we came upon just 2 weeks ago, and I was sorting through papers, and I came upon articles of the reason that we bought into where we live, was that it was going to be a possible park behind us. And I know that was brought to the planning board. It was in 1999. I didn't know if historically you can look into your records at all and just see. I know there was a lot of opposition because there was going to be a golf course within the water authority, but there also was park and recreation that they were looking at putting on that site. But I know there was a lot of opposition because of it being the village, and there was a building on it at the time, but that has been since taken down. But I didn't know whether there's something that you guys could look into, because that's one of the things as a community we thought was a possibility. I mean, it's 20 years ago now, but with this coming up now, and now they're putting in like a new housing development right down the road from us that we're looking at. If there's going to be more children, a park would be something that, as something, you know, besides a solar farm, you know, just taking away our wildlife. Because I'm very happy to hear that the Quag Wildlife came to speak tonight, because it is important that nothing happens to our, you know, the animals, and that this is going to be a deflection. They're going to go somewhere, because there is quite a few animals back there.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? There's no one on the list, but there might be some. Kevin, are there some people on Zoom? Can we start?
I reside at 22 Jennifer's Path, and I want to go on record as being opposed to this project.
Can you give us your name, please, again? We didn't hear it.
No problem. Michael Koziars.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, you want to let the next one in?
Hello.
Yes, please give us your name.
How you doing? My name is Louis Pasquale. My dad's the one that talked before.
Yes.
The founding son.
Long-time resident of 19 Jennifer's Path. Currently, I live at 63 Curtis Drive, Sound Beach. But I just want to go on record saying that I oppose this project. You know, growing up there, kids, they live by me. When I drive out there, we take a route through Calverton, Riverhead, through the back roads, by the wildlife refuge, and down South Country. And driving through Calverton, I drive past the solar farm. It's just so unappealing. And living in Sound Beach, it's busy. There's a lot of stores, there's a lot of commercial area, a lot of residential areas. Going out there to Quad, it's just so peaceful. Driving down South Country, seeing all the green, it's just so peaceful. Like, that's where I grew up. That's what I want. When I bring my children out there, it's a change of scenery for them. To have to drive down South Country and see another solar farm. That's not, I just don't want that. You know, the lady before saying, hey, maybe a park. Maybe, that would be great for my kids. And I could bring them there. And they could experience something with their grandparents and go to a place that's a bit more useful. Why am I gonna bring them by a solar farm? Doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin? We can't hear you.
You're muted. You're muted.
I think you're muted.
I think she's against it.
Down in the lower left-hand corner.
It depends upon what you're on.
Yeah, whatever. They might be on an iPad or
Tell
an
her to give us a
iPhone.
thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Do you want to figure it out and come back in?
Okay.
Yes, Kevin? Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening. Can you have your name, please?
Yes, my name is Jeannie Teggins. I live at 22 Jennifer's Path. I want to start off by saying thank you to this board for being so thoughtful and asking questions and listening to my neighbors. I believe every one of them brought up really great points, and I just want to add that I am opposed to this project. And thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, more? Do you think Gaspar and Devon can do the audio, or do we have someone else?
Yeah, we have one more person, and then we have the other two people that are on board that couldn't unmute.
Okay.
Okay.
You can call in also.
Yes, hi. Can you give us your name?
Yes, my name is Marissa Kohlmeyer, and I oppose this. Thank you.
Your address?
3 Sabrina Drive, Eastport. My father is Louis DiPasquale. And I grew up in Jennifer's Bay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We only should allow 3 family members.
Another Pasquale might
Yes.
pop up. Do you think Gaspar and Devon have the audio fixed?
I'm bringing them in now, we'll see.
Okay.
Devin Montalbano, 11 Jennifer's Path, and I just want to be on record that I oppose this project.
I'm Jasper Montalbano, 11 Jennifer's Path, and I also oppose the project. And just for the record, directly behind our house is a little wooded area. It's in the middle of the property. And in the middle of that property, there is a family of foxes that live in there. I have audio and video of those foxes. If they go and tear it down, they're going to displace those foxes or possibly kill them when they, rip down that entire area. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your comments.
Okay, that's it, Kevin? On Zoom?
That is all.
Okay. I think we have heard from you all, and we certainly appreciate your comments. You can also write them in, send us any reports that you have, links to studies, et cetera. So that would be
Comment
helpful.
period? We
Well,
leaving
we
this
have,
open, or?
well, we've left it open once,
30 days at least.
30
Did you
days.
wanna
We'll
say
do it with a
I did.
30-day written comment period. But David, you want to wrap up?
Just a couple of observations, and I think things that need to be cleaned up about the perception of this project. Number one, it's a site plan special exception application to the planning board, and you have to meet the criteria of that special exception standard. And I encourage you all to look at that. This idea that there's some nefarious conduct with the village and the lease and whatever happened isn't in front of this board. That's for a different forum. So I'd ask you to please disregard those comments. I'm sure that the opponents are supremely capable of chasing that down and figuring that out. This project was proposed with a 100-foot setback. There was a representation made that was the minimum, but it's not. The law, if you read it, says except for municipally owned parcels, minimum lot area for all residentially zoned parcels proposing a large-scale system shall be 120,000 square feet. We meet that. Setback requirements. Parcels entirely located in the LI 40, LI 200 shall meet the underlying front, rear, and side yard setbacks. This is in neither of those zones. If you read further in this law, it says the town of Southampton Planning Board may approve reduced setbacks or coverage, commercial scale, when abutting residential lots. So you actually have the opportunity to set the setback. The maximum is 100 feet, and that's what's proposed with this application. I think that needs to be understood based on some of the testimony that was given here. There's a lease for this property. Obviously, we've heard that tonight from the Village of West Hampton. There's an area that's included on the property, and then there's an area that's excluded on the property. The area that's excluded on the property is 30 feet from the neighbor's property in. So that 30 feet is a strip that CVE has no control over and can't touch it. It happens to be the wooded, very well wooded part of the lot. And that was, thought through in this process. One of the prior speakers said this isn't a landfill. A landfill is defined as something that accepts solid debris. If you're to believe the mayor of West Hampton, leaf debris, composting, and deceased animals are brought to this site, which qualifies it as a landfill in any definition. The intensity of it doesn't matter. There was a representation, and let me take a step back. This plan was well thought out, vetted through planners, and you see the 100-foot setback. Obviously, I mean, it doesn't take a super planner to understand that you want to be set back from the residential side. But the inverter and the transformer are on the east side of the property more than 300 feet away, and there was some representation that it was closer. One of the prior speakers, and one of the prior speakers said that you're going to see it from South Country Road. This is going to be visible from South Country Road, and if and when this board sees fit to approve this, you're going to approve a landscape plan. So you're going to have control over what's seen from South Country Road and what's seen from the subdivision on to the west. You have control of that. There's a process, right? There's a secret process. Issues were raised about noise, impact to property value. Those types of things can be studied under secret. Certainly, the noise can be mitigated to, it's less than ambient now and then far less than ambient. But we look forward to going through that process, studying the issues that were raised, and proving that this is a very benign use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
The applicant's supposed to have the last word.
I'm sorry. Mr. Gilmartin is misrepresenting what the law says. The law says, section 330, 162.24, D, 2B, setback requirements. The minimum setback to property lines of parcels developed with residential dwellings or platted for future use the minimum shall be 100 feet.
Thank you, Tara. You'll send us that.
Yes.
Look at E, right, gives you the ability to lessen.
Mr. Gilmartin, you also said that this had been vetted by planning.
I said by planner.
By planners.
By
not
planners, not by your planning department.
Not by our planning department and not by this planning board.
Yeah.
I just
We-
wanted to
mean,
clarify.
You know, we met with Janice, I think she said that publicly, and went through it with her, and she advised us of what the law is, and, the noise requirements that we have to prove and all
Right.
that, but yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, 30-day, we're closing with a we have to close it right now, I'm sorry. For 30-day written comment period, write to us, your comments, your studies, your reports. There was a prior planning, someone spoke about a prior planning project. We read all of that, that's important for us to receive, so you have 30 days to do that. So I'll entertain a motion to close.
30 days.
Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Dennis, second by Gloria.
All in favor? Aye.
Bye, all. Have a
6
good
in favor,
Easter.
1 absent.